Welcome back to Face the Nation and our conversation with Philippe Lazzarini of the UN Relief Agency for Palestine Refugees. Mr. Commissioner General, how much aid is getting into Gaza now as part of this diplomatic deal?
Since today, at the beginning of the truce, we have seen a significant increase of trucks entering into Gaza. I would say until the first day, we had an average of 40 trucks, which was far too little compared to the immense need in the Gaza Strip. And now, I would say over the last 3 days, we have an average of 160 to 200 trucks crossing Rafah and entering into Gaza. Having said that, I do believe that the 200 are hardly enough for a humanitarian response if we want to reverse the impact of the siege in the Gaza Strip. We need also commercial flow.
Mm-hmm. I want to ask you, sir, about your organization, which continues to be criticized by some in Israel, including their intelligence minister, who published an op-ed recently in the Jerusalem Post. And she said UNRWA has done zero to help the Palestinian people, even though it has an annual budget of over $1 billion. She argued that the international community should instead fund the costs of moving Palestinians to other countries. I wonder how you respond to that.
You know that UNRWA has a mandate from the General Assembly and basically is requested to provide protection and assistance to the Palestinian refugees across the region, not only in Gaza, until the day there is a fair and lasting political solution. Since then, when we refer to the $1 billion budget, we have in our school more than 500,000 girls and boys learning education from grade 1 to grade 9. We have more than 2 million people benefiting from our primary health, not only in Gaza, but also in Lebanon, in Syria, in Jordan, in the West Bank, and in East Jerusalem.
Mm-hmm. And resettling all of the Palestinians, I imagine you would strongly disagree with.
UNRWA does not have the mandate from the General Assembly to resettle the Palestinian refugees. The assumption is there needs to be a political solution, a lasting one, and that's the way an organization like ours would then phase out. Unfortunately, for 75 years, there haven't been any of such a solution, and basically we are dealing with a longest-lasting, unresolved conflict.
Understood. We will continue watching what happens, Commissioner General. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Mark.
And
I want to pause just for a second and weigh in on what he just got through saying. That's been the whole problem the whole time for the past 75 years, is that we've had people coming in there and they've tried to solve this on a political stance. This is all blowed up because it was handled politically versus handling spiritually. The only way, as Billy Graham's son continues to keep saying, Franklin Graham, that the world is going to straighten out, it's going to take God, the true, righteous, holy, eternal God of Abraham, God of Isaac, God of all the other prophets, as well as the Lord Jesus Christ. And until we see this grand, great movement, a revival, elevating into a revolution, we will never truly ever see peace in the Middle East, because it's being handled, basically beating a horse on the wrong end.
The World Food Program, Cindy McCain, also part of the United Nations. Director McCain, we just heard this ceasefire is bringing some aid into Gaza, but UNICEF just published some information saying that there is a life-threatening form of malnutrition in children that could increase by nearly 30% in Gaza. Weakened immune systems, weight loss, death from illness like common cold and diarrhea. They are talking simply about the children who make up half the population. What are you doing to prevent this from happening?
Well, thank you for having me. First of all, the bottom line here is that we need to get more aid in, as has been said. We are looking at possibly being on the brink of famine in this region. This is something that's not only terrific, but it will spread. And with that comes disease and everything else that you can imagine. Bottom line, we need more trucks in, we need more aid in, we need to be able to have more access to be able to distribute the aid, and hopefully maybe a longer time to do that, not just 4 days. We look forward to making sure that we can work with all of our partners on the ground and in the area to make sure that this can happen. And I want to thank the Egyptians for being so helpful in all of this.
Absolutely. But now what you get into, we think that a buddy system is so real over here in America, which it is, depending upon how much money that you got. And the sad thing about it is you may have made your money illegally, but that doesn't matter because you still got money to be able to hire a hotshot Johnny Cochran attorney, okay, if you wind up getting in trouble. We think over here in America that the buddy system, which is corrupt, that even Donald Trump talks about being corrupt, needing the swamp needing rain. We think it's bad over here. In places like that over there, can you only imagine what type of true buddy system that they have over there? That if they just don't like you for whatever reason, maybe you come from a different ethnic group, maybe they didn't like your mother, your father, maybe you done something 25 years ago that they're holding your feet to the fire, and now all of a sudden you get basically pushed out to the side, basically becoming a runt, getting the small portion of the milk coming from the tit, and because of it, you're going to have just exactly what you just got through saying: massive starvation, massive people acting in ways like you could not even believe. I seen a humanitarian truck pull up there about 2 days ago, and I don't know if the cable broke or what, but anyways, it was a thing. It was a truck full of water, and it was an older truck. It was like a flatbed truck, and I couldn't believe at the amount of people that was climbing on top of the truck and climbing on top of one another, climbing on top of the tarpaulin that was covered over the water bottles. People just absolutely going berserk, basically berserk, in trying to get fresh water. People have no idea the things that we're going to have to face off in the next few months, the next few years, towards what is occurring and what we have brought upon to ourselves in not only the Middle East, but all over the planet. They have no idea. Whenever it talks about that, as you shall see the days approaching in the Bible, that no flesh shall be saved, that's a very, very powerful statement. That's indicating that something horrendous is going to happen to this planet. And it already is, and it already has. And as I've said before, no, I do not believe that we can stop the consequences pertaining to the rivers drying up and not seeing adequate rains or too much rain or fires or whatever, basically the world becoming unproportionately imbalanced because of global warming and et cetera, environmental changes. The only thing that I can state is that we can slow it down. And that would be if everybody immediately basically said, you know what, we're no longer going to get on our airplanes and go take our fancy vacations. We're no longer going to go to our second homes in all these other exotic places. And we're going to stay at home and use the internet for what the internet was designed to begin with. They've claimed that this weekend, pertaining to it being Thanksgiving weekend here in the Western world, that we have broke all-time records on people traveling, not only by car, but also by plane. Where do you think all that carbon dioxide's going? Bingo. The American people are not acting as if they are truly concerned about global warming, and instead of being part of the solution to the problem, they actually are part of the problem. I try to limit where I go and where I don't need to go. Like if I get out of the house and I'm going to go to town somewhere, I don't just go for one item. I usually put down a laundry list. I need to get this, 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 and this. Even though I may not need that right now, I know I'm going to need it 3 or 4 days from now. So go ahead and pick it up while you're out there. That way you don't have to make a second trip. People are going to have to act more responsible whenever it comes to these imperil moments that are going to be facing upon humanity, because the Bible is very, very clear in saying, woe, woe, woe be unto the inhabitants here upon to the planet whenever you shall start to begin to tangibly see these things occurring or coming into existences. Woe be unto the inhabitants here upon to the planet is what the Bible says. I can't explain it any better than that, as me being just a simple messenger trying to put out this message of prepare, 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 get ready, get ready, get ready.
This.
UNICEF also said approximately 30,000 children under the age of 5 in Gaza had stunted growth. And this was even before the war began.
Right.
Why?
Well, the access for aid, again, prior to the war, and then of course since the war, has been an issue all along, and the ability to make sure that these children get the proper nutrients, not just food, but the proper nutrients in this. It's a terrific situation. It is a massive, catastrophic event that is occurring, and it will cross regions as it happens.
There's probably less than 2% of anybody in America right now that has truly went through hunger pains. Whenever I was up in LBL fasting and praying for a closer commitment with myself, with God, praying for peace, praying for revival, praying for the world in general to come together, I faced those hunger pains. I done that willfully and intentionally to draw closer unto God. I could not have done that without the power of God, because to go without food, I think the longest period of time that I went without food was something like 12 or 13, maybe 14 days, about 2 weeks. That is an extensive amount of time. I had to solely depend upon not just water, but also juices to be able to feed my organs to make sure that I didn't restrain some sort of severe damage, like maybe liver damage, heart damage, eye damage, heart damage, whatever, to be able to maintain that. But most of all, I had to depend on the leadership of God, the Holy Spirit, in guiding me in how to do that. I'm telling you, people have no idea over here in America, because they've been so spoiled and everything being so available. They have no idea towards what they're fixing to have to, the extremes of what we're all fixing to have to face off on. They have no idea.
We have got to be able to get in there. And not only that, we have to make sure that we can safely have access to be able to feed the people that we need to feed. So far, we've fed about 110,000 since the ceasefire, but we need to do a lot more than that.
For the next generations, no doubt. I know you are looking at the entire globe here, and there is a lot of need right now. I read that the World Food Program had to cut off 10 million people in Afghanistan. In Africa, you've announced you'll have to end food aid for more than 1 million people in Chad, suspend aid in Nigeria, in CAR and Cameroon. How do you possibly prioritize need, and how do you decide who to cut off?
Oh, Margaret, it's something that keeps me awake at night, and that's the honest truth.
I can only imagine, because most of the people that's engaged in these type of humanitarian contributions pertaining to it being non-profitable, they are good-minded, good-souled people. They are people with conscience and good morals, and they don't want to see not one life suffering, not one. Because the things are opening up the way that they are all over the planet right now, there's really no way that organizations like this is going to be able to attend to everybody's needs. It's going to be too overwhelming. And I've said that before in some of my other literature.
Very difficult to do, but the problem is not just the ability to not be able to feed, but it's the problem is the world needs to step up and help us. Cutting off 10 million people, primarily women and children, in Afghanistan it's deadly. It will kill the country. So we've got to be able to make sure that we can get aid in.
And that cancer will grow just like the diseases. You know, people don't realize that global warming, they think, oh, it's just going to get a little hot. We can get an air conditioner and we can isolate ourselves during the summer months. It's not just that. People don't realize that it affects the very origin of our planet. In other words, there's going to be mold, there's going to be mildew, there's going to be diseases that's going to form in this hotter environment that was not going to form in a cooler environment. And these things are going to only spread. They're not going to be conformed, but they're going to spread, just like the diseases in not just this particular episode, but over in, I think it was in Pakistan, where they got massive flooding over there. It was just unbelievable and what them people had to face for the next 6 months. But now you can look at hurricanes, you can look at fires, you can look at other major events that's hitting the planet right now that has similar repercussions. Well, whenever the planet is being bombarded by a siege coming from the evil demonic world, just as the Bible talks about, that Satan will come down because he knoweth his time is short, in great wrath. Whenever you have enough of this happening all over the planet, now people are going to start suffering because there's not enough goodwill to go around. So the main thing in any type of situation like this is that you got to have established leadership to make sure that it isn't a buddy system, but that things are being delivered and issued out equally before all the people and not just certain people. That's the main thing in situations like this, because I promise you, whenever it comes to humanitarian crisis, we have not even began to scrape the bottom of the barrel yet towards what we're going to experience in the next few months, in the next few years.
And more importantly, we need our countries around the world, not just the United States, but every country in the world, to step up and help us to feed people who cannot feed themselves.
The last time we spoke, you emphasized that some countries could provide technology, advice on how to do it if they don't want to kick in money. Mm-hmm. China, of course, is one of those countries that's been pressed to do more here. Are you seeing anything more?
Well, I'm seeing other countries, yes, step up and offer things and begin to work with us on a daily basis to see how we can better improve, not just what we give, but how it's grown and can be grown with less water, more technology. It's a series of things to try to combat not only climate change, but the effects of COVID as well as conflict. Mm-hmm. It's a long-range prospect,
and other diseases as well. But welding up steel doors to confine their citizens during the time of a COVID crisis, I don't feel like going that extreme in a Conclodian type environment. I don't see that that's the answer in how to deal with these massive, humongous problems that once more the Bible talks about that will be fallen up onto humanity.
Do need the technology.
And specifically, the crisis was made worse by Russia's invasion of Ukraine, which is such a breadbasket for the world. How significant is that conflict now on supply?
We're going to see supply chain issues. We're going to see supplies go up. The oil petroleum industry only added that much more misery whenever they jacked up all the prices, and they was basically taking advantage of the world by jabbing with all these extra prices. And of course, it's the oil industry that basically put us where we are right now towards being deniers, that it hasn't been just within the past few years that people like Al Gore and Biden has stepped up to the plate in recognizing that these things are real. It's just like the wind. You can't see the wind, but you see the results from the wind. So you can't deny that the wind did not do what you've seen the results of.
Well, it as you know, it has managed to really devastate many countries, not just from not having enough grain to be able to distribute, but also enough money to be able to do that. The Russian,
Or have the knowledge in knowing how to do that, other than it being a buddy-buddy system.
invasion has caused catastrophic effects that have dribbled all the way down through Africa, as was mentioned. And so,
See, our people over here in America, back during World War II, whenever it got so hairy over here to the point that we didn't know whether or not we was going to be nuked or whatever by a atom bomb coming from a Adolf Hitler. It was so extreme over here that our people know the only way to control this situation and control it right was to basically mandate shortages on people, being limited in how much gas that they could get, how many tires that they could get, how much food that they could get. Because if you don't do that equally, then you're going to have total chaos. And that's what a lot of these extreme situations are seeing. Total chaos. And usually, you know who winds up getting hurt the worst is the weak, the elderly, those that can't defend themselves. 9 times out of 10, those will be the ones that will suffer the most. It's kind of like the king of the mountain. Only the strong survive. Well, whenever you have an environment like that, you have a grotesque environment. A very grotesque environment.
so forth. Ukraine was very significant in all of this. We are getting grain out, as you know, it's going in different directions, but we are getting some out. But this is a catastrophic event, as I said, and it's affected nearly every country in the world.
And it will.
Well, Director McCain, we thank you for working on these hard issues and your time today.
Thank you.
We'll be right back.
And it's more so going to affect us today and tomorrow and the day after tomorrow, because we are all centrally connected to each other, towards depending upon each other. And until society recognizes that and acts upon to that in a spiritual form, not a political form, but a spiritual form, we as a society are basically doomed. And I don't mean to put that out negatively. I'm trying to actually open people's eyes. That way they are not blindsided by what to expect in the next few weeks, in the next few months, and in the next few years, regardless of what continent that you may be on. Thank you very much for listening. God bless America. God bless our American troops. And God bless our endeavors towards where we go from here in the future. Thank you for listening, and shalom.